So we are moving back to Africa. It's been the theme of the day. We've done something development-wise. We've gone back to Africa. Today we are going to South Africa, which I now believe is like the best Bitcoin country there is. It's a place where you can effectively live on Bitcoin. But one of the key issues facing the African continent is not just spending Bitcoin, but it's sending Bitcoin over borders. So this is one of the most exciting regions for real-world Bitcoin innovation, not just stacking and looking at charts and chanting hodl, hodl, hodl and number go up, but using Bitcoin as money. Because moving money across borders there is often slow, it's often costly, and it's dependent on outdated banking systems. I see you, Western Union. And our next speaker is going to tackle that head-on. He is the CEO of Orange, a company using the Lightning Network to make cross-border payments instant, affordable, and borderless. And moreover, today, we are going to get something which puts fear down my spine. We are going to get a live demo of Orange. We're going to send Bitcoin across borders. Yeah, pressure, Ricky. He also organizes the best, can I say this? I'm going to say it. The best African Bitcoin conference. It's called ABC. It's in Cape Town. So if you have no plans for January 2026 and you hate the European winter, I hate the European winter, then book a flight to Cape Town for this conference that he organizes. It's wonderful, and it's a real celebration of Bitcoin in Africa. So my intro is out the way. Are you ready, Ricky? Fantastic. Please put your hands together. Welcome to the stage, CEO of Orange, Ricky Allardice. Take it away.
Thanks, buddy. Cheers. How's it, everyone? So just got to get something out the way. I'm not the organizer of Adopting Bitcoin Cape Town. I'm a co-organizer. There's a few of us. And Herman Viveros of Bitcoin Ikasi is the main driving force behind it. All right, let me get my notes up. So let me introduce myself. My name is Ricky Allardice. I am CEO of Orange, and I know exactly what you're thinking. Has the French telecom giant Orange finally given up their fiat games, moved over to earn an honest living on the Lightning Network? Yes. Unfortunately, that is not the case. However, where they fail to pick up the torch, that is where I'm here. And I'm here to tell you about how we plan on doing that. So, Theo is a Nigerian businessman sitting in front here. You guys might know Theo from MarvaPay. He works as a software dev, he runs his own company in Lagos, Nigeria, and he serves customers from the US, the UK, the EU, the Middle East, and most of Africa. And like almost all businesses based in Africa that are serving global customer bases, he needs to receive international payments. And now the cost of receiving an international payment in Nigeria is about 4%, and the cost of sending an international payment out of Nigeria is about 11%. And this is not unique to this scenario is not unique to Nigeria. This is a shared problem all over sub-Saharan Africa, often way worse than the Nigerian example. The ability to trade, the ability to freely and cheaply send money cross-border inhibits the fundamental driver of human prosperity, and that's trade. So you see, the problem with cross-border payments in Africa, I should probably pull up my next slide. The problem with cross-border payments in Africa is that they function like a fax machine in a world that has already adopted instant messaging. Africa's cross-border payments are illiquid, they're slow, they're fee-stacked, and because value crosses many, many hops, this requires pre-funding. So the typical cross-border payment flow is, as you can see up here, the sender initiates a payment, he sends it off to the PSP, the payment service provider. The PSP routes it to a correspondent bank. The correspondent bank then passes it over to the FX desk. The FX desk converts it to the foreign currency. They send it to correspondent bank number 2. And then finally, the correspondent bank number 2 sends it to the recipient bank account in another country. This entire process, if you're lucky, it takes 3 days. If you're unlucky, it takes 10 days. If you're very unlucky, money never arrives. And every single intermediary takes a cut along the way, which causes massive roadblocks, delays, and high fees. So this has to change if Africa is to take advantage of its young and vibrant population. So the thing with Africa is that it is located perfectly between East and West. And like I say, they have this young and vibrant population of 1.5 billion people, 50% of which are under the age of 19 years old. So this means that, in theory, Africa's best and most economically productive days lie ahead of it still. And the potential held in this continent is absolutely massive. But the missing ingredient is the ability to trade with other countries on the same equal footing that people in the first world enjoy. So at Orange, we have one simple mission, and that's not French telecoms, to make moving money in and out of the African continent cheaper, better, faster. So to do this, we need a radical paradigm shift. And we don't think this is going to be achieved by better banking infrastructure and smarter regulations or anything like that. The fiat is absolutely fundamentally broken, and it's nothing more than a system of walled gardens with series of innumerable amounts of gatekeepers and rent seekers. And we believe that this 10x improvement can only come by fundamentally changing the game. So Lightning fixes this. This is exactly why we're building on the Lightning Network. And just to echo what Adam Back was saying earlier, this is exactly why we're building Lightning and not on stablecoins, for example, which a lot of our competitors are doing. We believe that Lightning is a completely apolitical network. And in a place like Africa, apolitical is what you want. So we see the Lightning Network as swift beating technology, being able to send value instantly, anywhere on Earth, at a tiny cost, and release an order of magnitude fewer intermediaries than the Swift network. And that's what we believe it's going to take to empower the African entrepreneur to really compete on equal footing with the rest of the globe. So how do we achieve this? So Orange connects the Lightning Network to on and off ramps all around the world with a specific focus on Africa and the main trade corridors into it. So we're a B2B service, which means that we work with existing remittance companies that already have a customer base. So we don't do B2C. I know you guys are all thinking, oh, this is what Stripe does. Stripe goes B2C, we go B2B. And the issue with dealing with these remittance companies is that they have no idea what the Lightning Network is, and obviously that means they haven't integrated it, right? So what you really need to do is you need to allow them to send and receive fiat currency and then connect them to the Lightning Network, which is exactly what we do. And you operate that in the background as the international settlement layer rather than the USD, which is presently how it works with Swift. So this means that the remittance companies and the end users do not have to interact with Lightning. They just use the fiat rails that they know. And guys, like, I know this is a Bitcoin conference, and this sounds like blasphemy to everyone over here. But in order to solve the problem that faces 1.5 billion Africans, you cannot go and change the UX that they're used to. And you can't add additional complexity to the process. And furthermore, if you're B2B, you can't go to a remittance company that's moving billions of dollars a year and say to them, guys, you should really use this Lightning thing. Let's change your entire stack and change the entire way you do business. You're not going to get very far. So meeting the customer where they are is absolutely mission critical to what we're doing. So what we've done is we've built an API that connects Lightning-enabled on and off ramps to companies that are already moving money around Africa. We abstract away the difficulty and complexity of the Lightning Network, with the end result being that the end user can send fiat from their local bank account or a local mobile money account to another mobile money account or bank account somewhere else on Earth, essentially instantly, close to instantly, and at very, very low cost, with the end result here being that the user does not have to interact with Lightning at all. So where are the savings? So what makes this approach revolutionary is that no working capital is required on behalf of the remittance company. And so for those of you who don't know, typically remittance companies operate with pools of cash in every jurisdiction they function in. So for example, if I am running a remittance company with a main channel between the USA and Nigeria, I need to have a pool of capital in the US, and I need to have a pool of capital in Nigeria. And the reason for this is because Swift sucks. So if you want to give a user a T1 settlement, essentially what you have to do is pay money out of a float that you control in Nigeria to the destination bank account in Nigeria, and then wait for the money to arrive via Swift from America. And this takes upwards of a week in some cases. It also incurs three major costs. The first cost is that you typically have to get a line of credit from the bank, and this comes at the interest rate associated with it. The second cost is, okay, maybe your business has been operating for a long time, you accumulated capital, but now you have to deploy your own capital for operations, and you can't use it for growth. So using your own money to fund the different pools. The third cost in Africa, which is by far the biggest and which stings the most, is currency devaluation. So we've got some Nigerians here. You guys will well know that over the past 2 years, the Naira has devalued by 200% in terms of purchasing power against the US dollar. So if you're a remittance company and you've got a pool of Naira sitting in Nigeria, this means it is a, quote sailor, a melting ice cube. And in order to keep facilitating these payments, you have to keep adding Naira to this melting ice cube. So you're doubling down on this devaluation problem. And it's just a vicious, vicious cycle that ends up costing you more money, and it's basically a race to the bottom. So why with Lightning do you require 0 floats? So because Lightning sats are globally fungible, it means that, and it can be sent essentially instantly to any point in the network, and because there's a global demand for Bitcoin, it means you can link those 3 things together. So you can buy Bitcoin in one jurisdiction on the Lightning Network, send it instantly to another point in the network, and then sell it. And so you cobble these things together, you can have buying Bitcoin with Naira, sending it instantly to South Africa, selling it from Bitcoin back into South African rands, and then doing the last mile to the end user. And now you've stitched together a cross-border payment solution that does not use a float. It sends the individual user's money in a discrete packet by itself end to end, almost instantly. And this fundamentally changes the game. So, what about meeting the customer where they are? So Lightning is great and all, but I'm sure many of you have used Lightning, and some of you have tried to build on Lightning, and you'll know that it's a bit complicated. It's not that easy. So what we've done at Orange is we've made very specific design choices to abstract away as much of the difficulty of the Lightning UX as possible. So the first thing we've done is allow the user to preserve their local UX. You must understand that the local payment system is nowhere near as we say in South Africa, as CAC, as the international SWIFT payment system. CAC means shit, by the way. So it's much better locally. So you can send a local bank transfer quite easily, quite cheaply. Typically, you can have it done within 24 hours or even instantly. If you're in East Africa, for example, you're used to mobile money. So don't take away that UX that everyone knows already and is well acquainted with. Don't fight the trend, right? So preserve that. Second is give consumers choice over settlement speed and therefore price. So if I don't need to send a payment super urgently, I can, like with on main chain Bitcoin, if I want to send a payment and I'm prepared to wait 24 hours, I should pay a lower fee. If you want to send it instantly, you pay a higher fee. So give the users that optionality. The third thing, and this is where the regulators get really happy, it's programming the access points, so your on and off ramps, so that you can interface with the fiat world and keep the regulators happy. The fourth thing is that sats are fungible, right? So this means you can make the US dollar, the Nigerian naira, the Kenyan shilling, and the South African rand all interoperable with each other by using Bitcoin as your settlement currency in the middle, or the Lightning Network specifically as your settlement currency. So guys, I've said a lot of things here, but actions speak louder than words. So I'm going to do a live demo. My CTO always tells me don't do this, but we're going to do it. So Theo, who I mentioned earlier, is actually a colleague of mine from, he's got a company called MavaPay in Nigeria. They do something very similar to what we do. And he's going to help me out by sending some Naira to another friend of mine, Mr. Herman Viveris, is sitting in the back. Sorry, Theo, can you just wave your hand so people can see you? And Herman, can you wave your hand? OK, so Theo is going to send Naira from his Nigerian bank account to Herman's South African bank account from Lugano, Switzerland. So Theo already has Herman's bank details saved into the app. And just for a bit of backstory, what's happening here, our API has been integrated by Theo's company. And Theo's company, MavaPay, has an on-ramp in Nigeria. So he's going to send the Naira. It's going to be converted to sats, sent across the network. And then our off-ramp in South Africa is going to receive the sats, convert them to rands, and do an instant payment to Herman's bank account. And if all goes well, this should be done in under 2 minutes, and Herman should have some more money. So to make sure we're not scamming you guys, Herman, can you please pick a number between 50 and 100 in rand, and we will know how much rands to send you? OK, 88. OK, so Theo, can you please send 88 rand to Herman's bank account? And what would you like the reference to be? It's like 12 words. OK, we'll go with Lugano. OK, so Theo's busy initiating the payment on his side. And so while this is happening, let me give you guys a bit of backstory of why we specifically went with Lightning. So if you were to send this payment on-chain, you'd run into the currency volatility of Bitcoin, because you have to wait 3 confirmations, right? So that means you're going to be waiting 3 blocks, could be 30 minutes, could be an hour, and the currency is volatile. Bitcoin's obviously volatile in that time period. But with Lightning, you can convert to Lightning from fiat, send it, convert to fiat on the other side, essentially in a millisecond. So you remove the currency volatility completely. And this is really, really important if you're trying to build a low-cost solution. Because if you have any currency volatility, it's going to wipe out any cost savings you can pass on to the user. So for example, our base fee starts at 0.25%. Now, compare that with 11% sending money from Nigeria. But if you had to wait an hour, you could get maybe a 1 or 2% fluctuation in the Bitcoin price, and that could, cut into your margin and reduce the efficacy of the product. So that's essentially why we decided to build on Lightning. The second reason why we decided to build on Lightning and not stablecoins is, like I said earlier, the apolitical nature thereof. In the way I see it with stablecoins, particularly USD stablecoins, is they're going to be used as political leverage to get countries to do what the hegemon wants them to do, particularly in Africa. As an African myself, I'm intimately aware of this. I've seen this happen my entire life. Countries all around us, the US dollar is weaponized against them. And I've recently seen this in South Africa, where our government dared to defy the US on something quite trivial, and the US threatened to sanction us effectively. And so there is a world where USD stablecoins get used as a weapon where you have your access revoked as an African country, for example. So that's a risk we were not prepared to take for our users, so we opted to build on Lightning, and so far it's been working pretty well. Theo, how are we doing there? You managed to send? Processing. Okay. So Hadman's having a look on his side. He'll give us a hoot of glee as soon as the money lands in his account. And it should be 88 Rand, which is about, what's that, $4? $5? Should be about $5 US. And I'll tell you the total cost because I can check it on my Slack over here when it comes through. But we should be expecting in the realm of about 0.25% is what it should cost. Any second now. And this is where there it is, success. Got it? There we go, guys. Hadman received it. See, so this is why I tell my CTO, it's fine. We'll do it live. Okay, guys, so with that concludes the demo. If any of you want to get hold of me, find out more about Orange, you can scan the QR code over there. It'll take you to our website. Come and find me later. And I have time for Q&A. So.
A round of applause first for Ricky. Thank you so much. As if it worked first time live. Do you have any questions for Ricky regarding Bitcoin in South Africa, regarding the conference?
I also just want to tell you guys that the total processing fee charge there was 12 sats. So it cost 12 sats to send $5 from a Nigerian bank account to a South African bank account.
Wow. So generational wealth, you mean? God, okay. Fantastic.
We got a question over here.
Yes. Oh, sorry, I didn't see you. Into the mic.
Just like this? Okay. I'm a bit of a noob with all this kind of stuff, right? I'm just learning a bit about Lightning Chain and how it works. But you're making the transaction from one channel end to the other channel end. And of course, you have to then convert it from the Nigerian, I can't remember the currency, Naira, to Rand.
Rand, yeah.
But you still need the pool of Naira and Rand for the transaction between the sats into Rand.
No, you need a market. You need access to a market is what you need. So in Nigeria and in South Africa, there's large and robust order books for Bitcoin. Both countries have high adoption rates of Bitcoin. Nigeria, more than South Africa, has an inflation crisis, so people are opting into Bitcoin. And so because of that, there's a large and robust market for people who are buying and selling Bitcoin. So Theo actually operates an order book on his side where they have buyers and sellers of Bitcoin. And in South Africa, we have an off-ramp that does the same, where there are people always wanting to buy Bitcoin and are willing to trade it for rands, and that's how we make it work.
So then you need a unit in that country. So for example, in Switzerland, if you wanted it in Switzerland, you need to have somebody or a market is trading that Bitcoin for CHF.
Correct.
Okay.
So we need an OTC desk, basically. In our experience, when we first started this business, we thought exchanges would be the place to go and speak to exchanges about this. And what we found is that exchanges are much more interested in gambling tokens than in solving payments. And so the OTC desk is actually where we found much better success. So yeah, basically we've been on-ramping OTC desks, and the requirement really is they need to have an API, they need to be connected to the Lightning Network, and that's essentially it. And be able to collect fiat on their side, obviously.
So is there a way that I can configure Lightning channels that aid in or connect to your channels?
So you'd have to be running an OTC desk. So if you've got a business with a OTC desk, they can do it, because it's not just a Lightning channel. There's a few other infrastructural elements. So for example, the receiving of the fiat, that needs to be able to happen in a way that the API can send information back to our system. Yeah. And also be able to make payments out, preferably at low cost and at instant. So what we use in South Africa is an instant settlement channel called PayShop, which is like a instant bank payment rail. And so that needs to be integrated as well. So there's quite a few elements that need to be strung together. But we've got partners in Kenya, in Nigeria, South Africa, and then also in the US at the moment, the EU. So we're busy testing a bunch of different rails. That diagram I showed earlier here, it's gone, of all the different rails we're connecting, UAE, Durham as well. And so the play really is to connect the large trading corridors into Africa, typically where there's big remittance flows and import-export flows. That's a big solution we're solving for. And then connect up as many disparate African countries as possible. In a perfect world, what I'd like to see is you be able to send money from Benin to Lesotho in under a minute. That's what we're trying to go for.
But then this could expand like outside of Africa quite quickly, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. The aim is global, for sure.
Does anybody else have a question for Ricky? Yes, this gentleman.
Thank you. Great talk.
Thank you.
It's all about, my question is about the integration. You talked a little bit about that now. So OTC desks in both countries, so for the fiat to SAT. Do you run the OTC desks, or is that, so you just integrate it? And sorry, a second question goes with that. Do you have to be integrated to a fiat payment system within the country, or do people go on your own platform? Are you kind of integrated with the banks? How does that work?
Okay, it's a brilliant question. So when we started this, we bootstrapped the company. So 3 South African guys, trying to do this on the cheap. And what we realized was, if you want to do this as cheaply as possible, you need to avoid as much compliance as possible, because lawyers cost a lot of money, right? And so our approach to this has been working with OTC desks that already exist, that already have the infrastructure, working with the LSP, Lightning Service Provider, and stitching these together. So we're really just a system orchestrator as Orange. We don't take custody of the user funds, so we never touch the user funds. The OTC desk sends it via the LSP to the next OTC desk. So the OTC desk, they're the licensed entity that can interface with the end user, has all the correct licenses, etc. They can interface with the end user, and so all we do is we stitch those together through one unified API. So that's essentially how we've built it. You could make the business arguments about vertical integration. That requires a lot more money, something we'll probably look at in the future. But to prove the concept and get a working product market fit, the approach we took was as a system orchestrator, just running the API.
Amazing.
Cool.
Thank you for your question. Is anyone else's hand up here? Yes, at the back there. You're making me run. Good. Thank you. Here you are.
Thank you so much. You have a great presentation. Do you have a top limit for your transactions in the network?
Great question. So presently, our upper limit is defined in each country by the payment limits of the channel, as it were. So not specifically Lightning. So the Lightning limitation is how much Bitcoin you've got committed to the channel. That's an easy problem to solve. You put more Bitcoin into the channel, no problem. The payment limit is typically enforced by the Reserve Bank in each country at the upper limit. When you push it as far as it can go. And so in South Africa, that limit is 5 million rand. 5 million rand is about, what's that? $250,000. Thereabouts. It's about $250,000, and that's per single transaction. In Nigeria, there's different payment limits. In Kenya, there's different payment limits. If you're going through mobile money, it's got different payment limits to bank transfers. So it's very specific to the different route you're going. But if you're an import-export or an importer in Nigeria, and you've got to pay a South African exporter, and let's say your invoice is 20 million rand, you can do 4 transactions of 5 million rand in very quick succession, no problem. And because the cost of transaction is so low, it's not really an issue. You can do those 4 transactions. But practically speaking, for now, it's 5 million rand in South Africa and varies by other countries as well.
And yes, there is a question at the front. You've got a couple of minutes, right, Ricky?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think you've
less,
got,
yeah.
5 minutes on the timer.
Thank you. Great speech,
Thank you.
great product. My question is more on the regulation side. We all know that FATF has listed most of the African countries as the grey list, which becomes a bit of an issue for the receiving part in the rest of the world. How does the Lightning Network solve that issue for the receiving, for example, Switzerland or any European country? Because the money is coming from the grey list, and even though it's coming fast, it has some unfortunately it says that it's coming from the grey list. And how does that solve that issue? Like, how does
I don't think it does solve the issue. I think it makes it much harder for the regulator to enforce, because the payment is always a local payment. So in other words, in Switzerland, for example, the payment is coming to you from a Swiss OTC desk. So it's always an in-country payment. And Lightning, up until now, chain analysis is very difficult on Lightning, especially if you're using private channels like we are. So from a regulator's perspective, they have no idea what's going on. They can't really see. So I'm not saying we're trying to break any laws or anything, but I'm just saying, practically speaking, it's a local payment that's happening. So, yeah.
Checkmate. Okay.
One thing I just want to add as well, though. South Africa has experienced a boom in the past 2 years of the ability to pay for things in Bitcoin. So you can live on Bitcoin. I would argue it's the easiest country in the world to live on Bitcoin. We've got a few foreigners like Rai, American, living in South Africa. It's super easy. There's over 600,000 merchants you can pay with Lightning in South Africa presently. So you don't have to go out of your way to live on Bitcoin. And what we've done with Orange is you can, besides doing the fiat to fiat transaction, you can also do a Lightning to fiat transaction. So you can generate a Lightning invoice and send to any South African bank account or any Kenyan account or any Nigerian account, which means that you can live on a Bitcoin standard very, very easily, because now you can make your payments with like a company like Money Badger, which does the integrations in South Africa for the 600,000 merchants, or you can pay to any bank account. So to echo the point of the circular economy, guys, like Bitcoin is made to be spent. It's money. If we just sit on it and keep it as a store of value, you might as well have gold. Defeats the point. So we're trying to build spending tools, and it's great to be seeing so much of it happen in Africa. Makes me very proud.
Awesome.
Thank you, everyone.
Fantastic. Please give it up for Ricky. Lovely stuff. But why stop at Africa?
What's that?
Why stop at Africa? Why not keep going? The rest of the world.
I mean, we'll get there when we get there. Let's do Africa first.
Yeah.